One last time, we were on our way back from Detroit on the bus. Our manager, Bull, came out. He came to the back. He said, I need to talk to y'all. And he said, Dave came to me. And he said, would it be possible for me to make or get paid more money? And I said, yeah, it's cool. I'm good with that. Bull, go ahead. Figure out what you want to take. And Chauncey just busted out like, yo, not taking no money out of my kid's mouth. Like, it's the way it is, and this is ours, I just told him, I said, man, this is the first time I'm even talking like this. You know me. But when it comes to this, it's not you the only person that I look out for. I look out for everybody. And you're not gonna help your brother? So that's the reason why Blackstreet broken up. My brother, at this point in time, I did everything for this man. When I moved back to the States, I took him again under my wings. I gave him my place, paid his rent for a year. Everybody have amnesia. All the money that I've spent on him, never been paid back to me. When we broke up as Blackstreet, he had to trademark in his name. But there's an affidavit that says that this trademark belongs to the corporation, which is owned by him and I. So that's where the case is at right now. And here today, we have so much money waiting for us, but it have to take me to sign off in order for everybody to get their money. So I'm letting them know on national TV that if we cannot make this right, this money is going to the graves. Sweat was my first R&B artist. He's from Grant Projects, was like 5 or 6 blocks from my projects. Vincent Davis, they, signed Keith, for Keith to do an album. And Keith was asking around. Somebody told him, man, it's that little kid, Shorty. He be doing all the music for all the rappers. He's like, where he live? He said, he live in the projects right by you, St. Nick. He said, I'm going over there after work. So after work, Keith came with his suit on and everything, came to the block. Me and my brother, all of us, we were shooting dice. And we were like, who's this dude coming around here with a suit on? He's shooting dice with us. And he takes all of our money. They were talking about robbing him. I was like, no, not robbing him. It's the big homie. He was in a band called Jamila, and I was in a band called Total Climax. And we played top 40 throughout all the nightclubs and bars in Harlem. Keith was a corporate guy, so he knew the owner. Keith was in everything. We was these hood kids, we came from projects, and they were like, we don't want to hire them, these guys from the projects. And I was like, well, Keith was from the projects too. So they finally hired us at the Cellar. And this was downtown. We got noticed performing at the Cellar, and we started playing down even more downtown, like Tribeca. And then we went to Atlantic City. He grabbed me, he's like, Shorty, I came out here to talk to you, man. I'm working on a project, and I'm doing an R&B album. I said, man, I don't do no R&B. He said to me, man, take them rap beats that you be doing. Give me your number. I'm gonna call you. And we ain't had cell phones. We had project phone. We had the wires. I had to stay at my house, and I said, man, I'm not gonna stay in the house for you to call. I'm gonna make the music, but I gotta come outside, I always still wanted to, play with my friends, be around my friends. So I just said, I'm gonna do something like this. And I started this style that I did playing unorthodox. After making it, I recorded it on a cassette, And I put it in an envelope, double envelope. When I put the cassette in there, you put your name in there, you write your name on the thing, you write the date inside, and send it back to yourself. It's called the Poor Man Copyright. So I sent I Wanna and Make It Last Forever back to myself before I went to the studio, because they haven't given me a contract. I did that album for $1,500. The Make It Last Forever album. You know, he was my first artist, so I gave him my all. I was at that studio after school every day for $1,500. And still today, I've never received royalties on that album or anything that I've done with Keith Sweat. It's the first time you're ever hearing this, because, you know, Keith is like my brother. But the other guy was, you know, to me, the crook. I'm from Harlem. My mom, she never asked us for help, but we did it because we felt like, you know, after our father left, me and my brother, we were the men of the house. Music was my imaginary friend. And every time my mom and dad would argue, you know, we had a little radio in our room. It was our alarm clock. And I would turn it up and just not think about them fighting, you know. So music was my friend back then, and now music today is my wife. My biological brothers are Markel from Rex and Effect, and my sister, Nisi. Sometimes we would come outside of our building and someone would be dead, you know, on the ground. We lived a crazy life, you know, outside of the home, inside of the home, but it was the life. My stepfather, actually who I'm named after, you know, I consider him my father, you know, because he raised me. I was 12 years old when him and my mom split. My father worked on the same job as my mom. She just never brought him around me, you know, because she, at one point, she didn't really know if it was my stepfather or was my father. But as I grew up, she started looking at me and saying, we look exactly alike. And she finally introduced me to him, but she didn't say it's your father. She just said, this is Robert. And then she told me later, she said, you know, Robert, who you met today, is your father. All hell broke loose. I actually didn't respect my father, my stepfather. I was like, you know, he said something to me, and then one day I just said, I'm not doing that. You ain't my father. Prior to that, I've seen my mother and my father, you know, fight, but this was the one thing that caused the biggest fight, you know, that I've ever seen. We threatened our father. He's like, touch my mother, you know, we're gonna kill you. And I just felt like, you know, it was my responsibility because I caused that. I just knew that he was the one, when I was 3 years old, buying my instruments. I'm talking about my stepfather. He bought me a trumpet, he bought me a guitar, and all of the instruments he bought for me, I learned them all. Drums was the only thing that interested me because, you know, I played drums at my school after assembly. And I asked the music teacher, Mr. Cornelius, could I play the drums? He's like, well, you can't play the drums. I said, I bet you. And it's the first time I ever played for anybody other than my mother, you know, my babysitters. I got up there. I just wanted to be a star after going to the Apollo. I don't know if you've seen Showtime at the Apollo and you see this lady dancing in the front. Well, I was next to that lady at 5 years old. I'm dancing while Gladys Knight performing. We up here dancing with each other, and then we turn back and we like this. And I've never really been to a concert. It was my first time. So going to see Gladys Knight, she stopped and started talking to the crowd, and she said, you know, I don't know about all of y'all out there, but This little boy was jamming to my music. Come up here. And she sung Neither One of Us. When I got home from that show, my godmother, she said, now that you've seen a star on the stage, Gladys Knight, what is it that you want to be? And I said to her, I want to be a star. You want to be a star? Like you want to be on stage? You want to sing? I said, no, I don't want to sing. I just want to be a star. She said, but you have to do something on the stage. I said, well, I'll just dance, you know, and play my keyboard. She said, okay, but you should learn how to sing as well. The sound that I grew up with was church. And when we joined Little Flower Baptist Church, at the age of 9, my mother looked at me and she said, get up there on the piano. Piano player quit. And I said, Mom, I'm not ready. She said, boy, you better get up there on that piano before I chop your behind when we get home. Nobody wants a whooping. So I went and I played on the piano. And so playing piano became my job, so I knew I had to go home and do homework because I never read music. I just did everything by ear. I didn't always want to play the church music. I wanted to just jam. So I would put on James Brown and play just James Brown or Al Green and those records and started learning those. And I'm like, I'm gonna apply this to gospel chords, you know? And that's what I did in church. Universal Temple was like the next level because the drummer of Universal Temple was Jazzy J, the DJ of Africa Bambaataa. And the DJ of the church was DJ Red Alert. So I'm jamming with them because you got a drummer now. My experiences came from the church, but what happened most of all was I was learning the songs that my mom, you know, had on her playlist. And those were all the top 40 songs. What inspired me most of all wanting to be on stage was my elementary school, Harry Tubman, PS 154. The actual backyard where we had playtime was the backstage of the Apollo. I used to always go to the fence and see who's at that backstage, and I would see James Brown. I saw Luther Vandross, and I saw like Freddie Jackson, Melba Moore, and they raised me. I was in the studio when Kool and the Gang was making Celebration, Ladies Night. I learned how to be an engineer. I learned how to be the T-boy, the assistant. I went to the store. Anything I needed to do just to learn all those colorful buttons, I did it. All the things that I was given to do wasn't hard to do because I used to do it for, you know, my street celebrities, you know, who were like the big homies. My mentor, Royal Bayan, he was the guy that took me to all the studios. I met Mtume, Patrick Adams, Kashif, Melba Moore, and Stephanie Mills, and all of those folks. And I got to work with them at an early age. That was the thing that actually cultivated the New Jack Swing sound. I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have a name for it until I started artist development with my manager, Gene Griffin. Rex and Effect, you know, I wanted to see them even higher than what they've gotten, you know, with New Jack Swing, which is our anthem. So I needed something else for them, and I just started getting them on records, you know, and when we did Rump Shaker, which, you know, it was the next level, you know, because we were the first booty making song on MTV. This was the time we moved to Virginia from New York. Well, New Jack Swing, how that was born was Akil had the idea. We had the sample, and we just kept playing this sample. Word up. And immediately, Akil had like just everything for that record, including my rap. But on New Jack Swing, I was the actual cameo on it, and everybody considered me a part of Rex and Effect, you know. And I said, cool, I'll be a part of it for now. My brother, Mr. Barry Michael Cooper, He was also my coach for a media class. Remember, I'm in artist development. He asked me, what are you gonna call this music? It's different, so you gotta have a name for it. Like, what do you call it? And I said, I don't know. You know, it's R&B to me, you know, R&B, gospel, funk, fusion, jazz, everything all together. He's like, but that's not R&B. That's just different genres of music. You gotta call it something. You know what? I got a name for you. What do you think of this? And he just... New Jack Swing. Rex-N-Effect started out with mainly Art Kill. He was the talent. He was like a version of myself as far as production. And then my brother Markel, you know, he was the one that was the street kid. I made them actually form a group. I made them, you know, I said, y'all not gonna be doing what I used to do. You're gonna go straight into doing this music. And they went and did it. Being the big brother, getting in trouble from doing the street thing, hustling. Getting out of it, my escape was music. So I had to segue them, you know, detour them straight into the music. I had to get them out. Rex-N-Effect. And then I just started grabbing everybody. I was the kid doing music for everybody in the projects. I did Spoonie G, B-Fats, Big Daddy Kane. I worked with Rob Bass a little. Kumo D. Rex-N-Effect was like, it was my baby, you know. It's like, if I can make them famous, sure, I can make anybody famous. I haven't been paid the way I was supposed to have been paid for the Keith Sweat album, the Guy album, Aaron and all of us. You know, and that's the reason why I feel like they don't speak to me. I don't blame Keith. I don't blame anyone. You know, I can only blame my manager, Gene Griffin. I didn't know that I was making $150,000 to $200,000 a song, but I would only get $10,000 or whatever he would give me. But what he did to Aaron Hall, Aaron signed his publishing over to Gene Griffin. You know, he swindled Aaron, gave him $25,000 for all his publishing. I just hope that, you know, when this all unfolds and these guys make their money, that I get an apology. I was the victim because I didn't just do Guy. I have over 800 or 900 credits. It's definitely in the millions, you know, but I can't really put a price on that because you're talking about the record companies who never gave us a fair shake. If Timmy Gatlin would have never brought up Gene's name, Guy would be together today. When Timmy came to me with Aaron, they used to work at Strauss shoe store in Brooklyn. And Timmy would hear Aaron singing, and he just finally said, man, I got a little brother that's doing music with everybody. You know him? His name is Teddy Rowley. Timmy brought Aaron to the studio. This guy is a prodigy. Here's a guy that never wore sneakers until I bought him his first pair of Jordans. He said, man, is it okay if I come over? You know, I'll sleep on the couch, I'll sleep on the floor, you know, but I feel like I need to be here. And Aaron would come to my house every day, and that's how we wrote with Timmy. Timmy would come over because he lived like, I think, 8 or 9 blocks from us. And he would come and we wrote I Like and all of those records. But I've never been paid. They've never been paid. You know, the only time I've seen money was Michael Jackson. All of these things happening with Guy was the cause of me quitting because it was just a lot of things unprofessional. Aaron didn't want to sing one day, or he would just want to, he's this way one day and he's that way another day, and it was just too much for me to handle. I just came back from California, went to New York so I can make my rehearsal. I had my rehearsal with Guy. I walked into an audition of some background singers. 2 of the singers were Chauncey Black and Eric Williams from Blackstreet. The end of Guy was at Madison Square Garden. I couldn't take it anymore, and then also losing my big homie Anthony B, who got shot. It was a beef with New Edition camp and the Guy camp. And everybody thought it was New Edition and Guy, the principals, and it wasn't. That altercation happened in North Carolina, ended in Pittsburgh. North Carolina, New Edition happened to be late coming to the venue. And when they came to the venue, Al Heyman was like, if these dudes don't get on stage, I'm gonna cancel this whole tour. I was like, we can go on, but this is their city that they supposed to headline. So we went on stage, we started the show, Al Heyman was happy. Their road team, road techs, and everybody was trying to set up New Edition's equipment while we were on the stage. Of course, our road manager didn't go for that, Frank. He was one of Gene's like goons. So we were in a venue that people could see the back, they could see the seats, you know, because the seats all the way around. Our road manager went nuts. He said, you can't set up your drums on here. He said, I'm setting them up. So he's still setting up. So our road manager kicked him 10 feet down off the stage. He falls and get up, and he goes to the back. He went and told Michael Bivins and all of them. And of course, Michael is the leader. We all in the middle of Piece of My Love, where Aaron throws the towel and he brings a girl up on the stage, a big girl, and he picks her up and wine and dine her, and we're about to get to that part. So that part is about to happen, but we hear this, the whole crowd. New Edition walks on our stage. Next thing you know, we look this way, and everybody coming, the whole Don't Hold Me Back, and our security came on the stage, but Michael was the one who actually said, come on, we going on the stage. And when they came on the stage, it was just a whole outbreak, and next thing you know, the music stopped, the band, everything was like, Woo! Everybody just had this look like, what the hell is going on? We didn't find out till we got to the hotel in North Carolina that they were trying to set up their instruments and everything while we were on the stage. And Frank was explaining, you know, and he's from Ghana, you know, and, you know, he have that accent. He was like, they come on the stage, I went to, and I just had to kick his ass off the stage. And I said, but why did you do that? Frank, I just hope nothing breaks out from this. He said, well, you know Gene already know. And Al Heyman already know as well. So they all gonna be in Pittsburgh tomorrow. We drive into Pittsburgh and we seen all these police cars, firemen, ambulance. So immediately, Gene and Al Heyman was in the lobby of our hotel, and they up here having a meeting while the fight is going on at the venue across the street. They're over there just fighting everybody, and people getting beat down with microphone stands and all of this going on, and next thing you know, somebody got shot. So they rushed us up through the back way of the hotel, straight to our room. Jane Griffin's orders. He said, keep them in there. Don't let them come out for nothing. So we cut on the TV. Breaking news. Young man gets shot in the door of the Marriott Marquis. And this is my friend, Anthony B. He got shot 4 times, and I think 3 or 4 times by one of New Edition guys. I don't want to put his name out there because, you know, he's forgiven. You know, he was defending himself. But it was my guy who got shot. So to answer your question, the reason why I quit the group was because I lost my best friend and I couldn't take the pressure. It's too much pressure on me, and I dread doing that last show with them at the Madison Square Garden, because I didn't want to quit the group, you know, because those are my brothers, you know, but I felt like I had to take that break. And Michael had bought me one of those brick phones so he can communicate with me, and he called me after my show at Madison Square Garden. He said, "How did it go?" I said, "It went great." He said, "What happened? Like, what was your high point? Like, you know," he wanted to know, like, what was the highlight? I said, "Well, the highlight for me was I left my group." He said, "Why'd you quit?" I said, "Because I'm coming to work with you. And I know it's gonna take a lot of work. When you coming?" I said, "I need about 5, 6 more days because I got something for you." And next thing you know, I hung up the phone with him, and I had the track from Remember the Time. And I'm in my Ferrari, and Joe Black was in the passenger seat, and we're pulling out of the driveway of the garage. And that was the beginning of my happiness, because I went back to the studio. You know, I felt like with Michael, I was a big brother, and then I was a little brother. And anything that I've ever needed, you know, Michael, I didn't have to call him for it. He would just feel something, or he would just call and say, "Are you all right? Anything you need?" So that's how our relationship was. And prior to working with Michael, hanging out with him was about a week. You know, I was ready to get to the music. He was like, "Yo, you know, we're gonna go to the studio. I just wanna, you know, kind of spend some time, and you get to know how I am, and I get to know how you are." And he just started asking me questions, and I didn't know that those questions was manifesting into real life things. So he would ask me, you know, "What type of studio you work in? What kind of speakers you use?" And I remember one time he was asking me questions, his assistant on the side, and Norma would take notes. And I'm like, she's writing down everything. It's like, why is he asking me all these questions? And we're doing this every day, and then we would go to the game room, or we would go to the zoo, we would go to the amusement park, and he was studying me. He was studying everything about me. By the time I got to the studio, because he asked me questions like, "So do you like games, you know, and stuff in the studio?" I said, "Yeah, that's a part of creativity." He said, "What about girls?" I said, "Yeah, that's a part of creativity." That was my journey staying at the Netherlands. Then, let alone staying in the rooms, everything is Moonwalker. Moonwalker robe, Moonwalker bed sheets and comforter, Moonwalker candy bar, Moonwalker toothbrush, toothpaste. Everything was Michael Jackson Moonwalker. And I was like, I'm not gonna take a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna take all of this. And he came in the room, he see me try it on, he was like, "That's nice, that's yours." I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, it's yours. If you want to take a couple for your family, you can." It was a great friendship, you know. It was the most incredible friendship. Yeah, basically when we had stories, you know, we would go in a room, and sometimes I can't take it because Michael, he loves heat. This guy would have a sauna in his room, and the first time being in his room, you know, he would just open up, and that really inspires him to write music. So he would talk conversations, and it would go into, they don't really care about us. And I wanted to make a beat one day, and he was like, "Well, let's take it in the room." I was like, he said, "Leave the drum machine, leave all the machines." And he had an upright piano in his room. And he's like, "This is how we do it." We were talking about Remember the Time first. When I played the demo for him, he stopped in the middle of the demo and pulled me in his office, which is his bedroom. And he said, can you play that on the piano? So I played Remember the Time, and he was like, stop. What is that chord right there? I said, I don't know. And I dropped my hands and I said, I don't read music. He said, that's okay. I'm not asking you to test you. I'm asking you because I've never heard that chord in any of my music in all of my life, being in the music business or writing music. It's the first chord on Remember the Time. I just said, you know, well, it's a church chord. He's like, and he would just write down everything. And, you know, I don't mean to come off on anybody, but Michael was like my brother, and I will protect him with my life. Losing him, biggest tragedy of my life, you know, since losing my grandmother and my grandfather and my stepfather. My fiance at the time, she was gonna leave me, and I had to do something, you know, because she was 1 foot out the door. So I was like, I know what's gonna do it. I'm gonna make this song. Let's Chill. I made Let's Chill, and she stayed. But I was still a bad boy. I was still bad. And then I went back to doing the same thing because, you know, I'm a creative person. Creative people love creative things around them. And when I'm at my studio, it's a whole different atmosphere. It's women. And of course, you know, that's what makes us make the best music. And I kind of got it from Prince and Michael. You know, I just like that. The eye candy is what makes the inspiration happen. And when I met Sally, my good friend, you know, I consider her my good friend. Sorry to my brother Jackie, Jackie Jackson. But I met her in a club, and she came with Jackie and left with me. And Sally was with me. You know, when I had meetings, she came, and we built a friendship that was like amazing. You know, we were true friends, and at a point we were lovers. And I fell in love at the time, you know, and that was one person that when she wanted to pursue her career, you know, it kind of broke my heart, but I had to let her do that because it would be me holding someone back. She inspired me to write, you know, Let's Chill and I Wanna Get With You.
I wanna get with you if you got the time. Maybe we can swing it, but
that was when I came to that club, so that's why you see the video. It's of me coming in the club wanting to get with, you know, Sally, but the actual girl who played that part was Lisa Wu. And Lisa, before Sally, was my girlfriend. We were dating. I didn't see her for a while, and she just disappeared. Next thing you know, I hear on the news, she gets married to my big brother. Yeah, she got married to my big brother, Keith Sweat. I got a call from Ernie Singleton. It's like my uncle. He worked for MCA Records, and he was one of the presidents of urban music. And Ernie Singleton was like, I need this song. I need a song for CB4.
Now, CB4 is one of the hottest hip-hop groups to come on the scene in a very, very long time.
I looked at that movie, I was like, nah, y'all not making fun of my friends, you know, Eazy-E and, you know, Dr. Dre, because I was a big fan, so I was like, I don't want to do this movie. This is a knockoff of NWA. He's like, man, I'll pay you this much to do it. I was like, man, I could throw that money at my kids. I could tell her, like, yo, that's kids' money right there. So I went to the studio and I called all my producers and all my people. Pharrell's like, you got it going on to the break of dawn, from your head to your toes, Blackstreet knows, you're the sexy move maker. I'm like, this is fly. I was like, all right, I'm doing that.
Girl, you got it going on to the break of dawn, from your head to your toes, that's Blackstreet.
He got that song, he said, this is great. It's gonna be the song here, and we're gonna play it at the end. We didn't have a group. It was not developed. That song was a song we put together, and I picked Joseph Stone Street, Levi, and everybody just sung, Chauncey's song, and we put the song together, and then we just said, this is the group. I just had Guy on my mind, and I said, you know, what if I go back to Guy, you know, I would be leaving them hanging. Then I heard this interview from Aaron and Damien, you know, and it was an interview, they was boasting, it was like, yo, we don't need Teddy Riley. I said, that was the answer. I joined Blackstreet. So every time something happened or we would have an issue where we had to put somebody out of the group, we just came up with a new concept of the group. So with that being said, we went into the Another Level album, the No Diggity album. And when we went into that album, we got the two members, Mark Middleton, who's an extraordinary vocalist, and Eric Williams, who's, and you know, he's incredible as well. We went to Trinidad to do the album. We did the whole No Diggity album in Trinidad. And it was supposed to be me going there for about 3, 4, 5 days. I wound up going to Trinidad and staying and never coming back. I stayed there for about almost a year. We came home for a little while because I didn't want to mix in that studio because it didn't have the sound of my studio. So I went back to Virginia, mixed Another Level album, and then found out my fiance was cheating on me with one of the singers I signed. I was sick. I was like, wow. When I found that out, I just started tearing up furs and everything. And just to give you the spill, Don't Leave was actually the opposite. It was her saying, don't leave me. And I stayed. I realized what I did to her, I caused. I realized that later on in my life, I caused it. Chauncey, Eric, and Mark came to my house and walked in my bedroom, and Chauncey was like, yo, we got something we need you to hear. And it was Don't Leave. It's a track that I did in Trinidad. They recorded the vocals to see if they could inspire me to get back in the studio. It wouldn't have bothered me if it was somebody that I didn't know, but this is a guy I prayed with, welcomed in my home, and, you know, gave him a deal. We had to figure out a way for me to finish that album with him not being in the group. My guy, Joe, was like, what you want me to do to him? I said, nothing. Just get him out of Virginia. Suge wanted to meet with me. He started off with the conversation like, Lil, man, I just want to paint a picture for you. So I'm nervous. Either he's going to do something or make an offer, like I got to make a move with him. And that's what it was. He was like, you know, I can get Jimmy to put $2 million on your table tomorrow in your bank account. And I said to him, I said, I could get Jimmy to put $2 million in my bank account, but I'm not that guy. He said, think about it. And he got up from the table, gave me a call, and walked out. I never called him back. And because I didn't call him, everybody started hearing the No Diggity sample before No Diggity came out. Toss It Up is the record that sounds like No Diggity.
Yes, baby. I like the way you work it. No diggity.
I called Jimmy, he said, don't worry, everything's taken care of, trust me. Jimmy had the record taken off the radio. Losing Gene Griffin, I was back in his life months before he passed, but I was with him 2 weeks before he passed because he had Alzheimer's. And I brought him to the studio because no one would take him out. He would go out, on the premises, but no one would take him away from the home, the nursing home. I literally did a guy's set, and he watched me. I went over to him and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Yeah, that was done by my son." "Yeah, Teddy." I'm in front of him. I said, you do remember." I didn't want to say to him, "So who am I?" So that was our time before he passed, and I'm just about making peace. I'm never one to show my journey, because I forget about it because I got more to go. I really feel like God have a plan, that I must finish the job. So I'm a part of, and hopefully they'll bring me on as ambassador for the children, UNICEF, and the women empowerment. I want to do festivals, and we have to uplift our children and our women. Our guys, our men are strong. I think now it's time to uplift them, and I think it's time for them to control the world. And that's my story. I'm sticking with it.